Welcome, friends and fellow horse fiends. You've landed on Come Ride With Me, a podcast dedicated to helping you find harmony, joy, and success in your riding. I'm your host, Anna Fox of Equus Enlightened. This pod isn't about training your horse, but about training you to be the best partner for your horse. Listen to find out how I use my intention to direct my ride. You'll hear how I decide what to focus on, what to say yes to, and when to redirect my horse. You'll see how not getting frustrated or overwhelmed is the easiest path to sanity and harmony. So, what are you waiting for? Come ride with me. Hey there, horse fiends. Welcome back to another episode of Come Ride With Me. I'm your host, Anna Fox of Equus Enlightened, and this season we're talking about letting go of perfectionism. In the last few episodes, we've been doing a lot of letting go. Of control, of perfectionism, of the need to ride like we're trying out for the Olympics every time we tack up. But now that we've cleared some of that mental clutter, it's time to start building something new. A real-time conversation with your horse. Not just doing things to them or trying to get them to do things for us, but actually listening and responding like a dance. Like a partnership. So welcome to the How to Start a Conversation with Your Horse episode. What does conversation actually mean in riding? Let's start with a little myth busting. A lot of us were taught, either directly or by example, that horses aren't smart enough to have a real conversation with, and certainly not under saddle. We were told things like, don't let him get away with that, they're just testing you, they have to respect you, ask once, make it happen. The underlying assumption here is that the horses need to be managed through dominance and obedience, that they won't do the right thing unless you control every detail, that if you give them too much choice, they'll choose wrong, that if you give them space, they'll run away with it, literally. But here's the truth. Horses are not only deeply sentient beings, they're also highly intelligent and aware. Contrary to popular belief, their brains are not tiny or primitive. In fact, their brain is approximately the same size as a human brain. It's just arranged differently. Dr. Steve Peters, a neuropsychologist and co-author of Evidence-Based Horsemanship, puts it this way. The horse's brain is not a defective human brain. It is a fully developed, highly specialized survival brain. It's built for perception, awareness, and social nuance. When we treat them like dumb animals, we miss the richness of their intelligence. Now here's where it gets tricky. The command and obey model does work, sometimes, in some instances, for some periods of times. Some horses are just so adaptable, so willing, or frankly so shut down that they go along with it. You say jump, and they ask how high, until they don't. And that's usually when riders hit a wall. A new horse that's more sensitive, a situation that's more complex, a moment where the horse says, I don't understand, or that hurts, or I'm scared. And suddenly the whole command system breaks down. Because commands don't leave room for questions. And here's where my past life as a 911 dispatcher really drives this home. When you're trained to take emergency calls, the first thing you learn is not how to give orders, it's how to ask questions. Every call follows a structured questioning protocol, depending on whether it's for fire, EMS, or law enforcement. Why? Because the questioning allows us to send the most appropriate help in the quickest way possible. And I want you to think about this. Don't you want the same from your horse? The most appropriate, helpful, and accurate response in the least amount of time? If someone calls 911 and yells, send an ambulance here now, and hangs up, I have no idea why. Might not even have any idea where I'm to send this ambulance. So now I have to call them back, try to get more information. If I can't reach them or they're not willing to give more information, I'm not sending fire rescue personnel into an unknown situation. I'm sending law enforcement to assess the situation first. It creates a delay, it creates confusion, and possibly even danger. But if the same caller gives their address, answers the questions, then we can dispatch help right, with no delay, and everyone arrives prepared. It's the same with horses. If we shout a cue and expect immediate action, we might get compliance, but not clarity. We might even trigger confusion, shutdown, or resistance, which is never fun when you're dealing with a 911 call, I can say from experience. Also not fun when you're dealing with horses. But if we approach with questions, if we pause, observe, and respond with intention, we create a channel for communication. We don't need to escalate. We don't need to micromanage. We just need to ask the right questions and listen to the answers. Because obedience might get you a response, but conversation gets you the right one. If we want a partnership, if we want trust, clarity, willingness, then we've got to move beyond the outdated model of obedience and into conversation with our horses. That means asking, listening, and adjusting. It means being okay with a not yet or can you clarify instead of demanding yes on the first try. It means letting go of the fantasy that we're the only intelligent species in the arena. Because really, if humans were so much more intelligent than every other species, why are we the ones who keep having to evolve? So how do we introduce questions that build partnership? Well, I have 3 that I like to ask. They're like my staple, and I didn't come up with these in a classroom. They grew out of being in the saddle, being in the barn, out of years spent riding all kinds of horses, easy ones, tough ones, the problem ones. I was lucky in a lot of ways. I had really good instruction early on. Yes, some of the old myths still floated around, like they do in most barns, but I was also taught a few powerful things that stuck with me. One is you have to ride the horse you have that day. And the other was to always ride a horse like the owner or buyer, if you're selling a horse, is going to ride the horse. The second one always really hit home with me because as a kid, I was always riding ponies for less experienced riders. I couldn't just train a pony to go well for me. I had to train it to go well for someone who might not have my skill set, my timing, or my feel. And I see that as a big problem for people who have horses in training barns today. They don't ride the same as the professional that's normally riding their horse. So those little tidbits planted a seed for me because I started noticing what actually made a horse easier to ride. And it wasn't brute force or mechanical obedience. It was clarity, consistency, conversation. As I grew up, I kept finding different ways to work with difficult horses. And I mean, really difficult, like the ones people wanted to sell or throw out to pasture. But I didn't want to give up on them. I wanted to understand what was going on with them. And what I discovered is this. Good horsemanship is just good communication with horses and with people. One of the most important things I learned from the good horsemen and women I was lucky enough to know was this. They'll teach anyone. They can talk to anyone. They didn't care where I came from or whether I had the same background or influence. They just made space for me to learn. They didn't look down on me for having a different education. They added to it. And now I feel the same way about horses. These people gave me the grace and space to figure things out. The least I can do is give horses the same courtesy. So after years of riding, teaching, studying, failing, trying again, and really listening, these 3 questions kept showing up over and over. In the best rides, in the hardest moments, in every breakthrough. They're not technical. They're not step-by-step instructions. They're not tied to any one discipline. They're just truths touch points you can come back to again and again. And I call them the 3 questions that build partnership. The first one, is my horse soft? Softness isn't just about a bend in the neck or a release in the jaw. It's not about just physical tension. It's about the mental state that allows the horse to be open, to be trusting, and to yield. Is the horse meeting the moment with tension or with ease? And here's the kicker. You need to ask the same question of yourself. Because if you're not soft in your aids or in your mind, you're not showing up the best way for your horse. Question number 2, is my horse responsive? Responsiveness is about clarity and timing, not obedience. Did you notice something change when you asked? Or did you bulldoze right past it looking for something bigger? Because your horse might be responsive, but you are not. Did you miss their first try? Are you reacting or are you listening and responding? Is your horse reacting or listening and responding? The third question, is my horse aligned? This can be a sneaky one. Alignment isn't just about being straight. It's not about traveling straight. It's about being on the same page. Yes, is the horse's body aligned with their direction? But is their mind aligned with the task? Are we both trying to go the same place together? Are you, as the rider, aligned in your body and intention? Or are you distracted, pulled in 5 directions, or physically twisted, or rushing the process? These are the questions that changed everything for how I work with horses. They help me drop out of control mode and into conversation mode. They help meet the horse where they are and ride from a place of curiosity, not command. So why is it hard to have this kind of conversation? Because obedience sometimes looks like it's working. The horse goes where we point them. They do what we ask, mostly stay safe and steady. It's predictable. It's tidy. It even wins ribbons sometimes. But it can also hide what's missing. So I'll tell you a story about Gus, who, if you know him, he will tell you he is my very fancy imported Westphalian horse. Though to be fair, I didn't go looking for him. He kind of found me. And I was not looking to import a fancy horse. I wasn't even looking for a horse, actually. But at the time, I was living in Germany, and a friend of mine was horse shopping. He happened to find a striking young horse at a barn, actually in the Czech Republic. It wasn't even a German barn. And he tried the horse, and he said, he is lovely, but, he's just not my horse. He might be yours. And I thought, I'm not looking for a horse. But when you've been around horses long enough, you learn to recognize when the universe is giving you a signal. So I went and saw this horse. He was a 4-year-old stallion, just recently started under saddle, with an absolutely unforgettable face, a bright chestnut, almost bald blaze, completely asymmetrical, only one hind sock, not exactly prime German dressage catalog material. Even though his bloodlines would tell a different story. His coloring totally did him wrong. And even funnier, he was at a jumper barn. And sure, he could jump, but as my eventer friend put it, he doesn't have the blood for it. Translation, Gus is careful. He values his safety and well-being. He's smart, self-preserving, and not inclined to hurl himself at a solid obstacle just because the rider wanted to go there. So this quality made him incredibly obedient. He was easy to ride. He wanted to please. He tries really hard. And we tried hard at eventing. And technically it worked at the lower levels, but it just wasn't fun. Not for him and not for me. So he really seemed to shine in the dressage arena. He liked performing, he liked being in there by himself. So I shifted our focus there. And we made progress. We moved up the levels, we got good scores, we won some great ribbons. But at a certain point, we hit a plateau. And the more intricate the movements got, the more mechanical everything felt. The brilliance just wasn't showing up. The lightness, the elasticity, the freedom that I wanted, it wasn't there, and neither of us were loving it. So I went looking again. Not for a horse, but for education this time. Because this horse was amazing. This horse did everything. He still does everything, and he's 29 years old now. So I can also attest to riding your horses in conversation gives you a lot of longevity. And so this time when I was looking for education, I found a lot of people along the way, and a lot of people taught me some really valuable things. But Karen Rolfe really taught me the value of dialogue, and not just metaphorically. She taught me how to do real moment-to-moment two-way communication with the horse. And she showed me what it looked like to give the horse autonomy to think, feel, and choose within a movement. Because when your horse feels like a partner, not a puppet, they express themselves. Their posture, their rhythm, their joy, it all lights up. I remember still very distinctly going to a show shortly after spending several days working with her. We were riding third level at the time, and I had Karen's voice echoing in my head. Just give up your perfection, go for it, ride your horse like you trust him, let him carry you. And that day we had the best test we probably ever had at third level. And not because I micromanaged every half halt, but because I finally let go of control. And Gus showed up, not just obedient, not just safe, but expressive, powerful, and free. I'm pretty sure the judge even wrote that on our test. That experience was a turning point for me because it proved what I knew deep down, that obedience isn't the goal, partnership is. And you don't get partnership by doing more. You get it by listening more. On the other hand, what happens when we don't shift, when we stay stuck in that mode? I didn't realize how much I was grinding until the joy was already gone. I was getting burnt out, not just from the pressure of competition, but from the way we were riding, the way our training sessions were going. Every lesson was more leg. Ugh, you've all heard it. Push, push, more leg, hind legs faster, the whole thing. There was no space for softness or curiosity, or I think Gus's very real desire to understand why in the world we were doing something. So he just sort of stopped having the same brightness about it. He was resisting quietly, which is completely his nature. And then we started having lameness issues, which is totally out of character for him. Basically, we just weren't having any fun anymore, and all kinds of things were going wrong. But that's exactly what happens when we try to force results through obedience, right? That happens to people when they get into states of depression and they don't have the freedom to express themselves. They start having all kinds of health issues. It's the same thing for our horses. We stop listening, they stop offering, the work gets heavier until it breaks something, physically, mentally, or emotionally. And for what? I wasn't getting anywhere. Certainly not where I wanted to go. So when I started riding Gus, when I started riding with him instead of on him, that's when the brilliance started to come back. And that's when we found the flow. That's when the conversation really started. So now it's your turn. I'm going to challenge you to start that conversation with your horse. And we've talked about why obedience isn't enough. There's power in asking questions, not just giving cues. So let's put it into practice. This week's experiment is simple, but not easy. You're going to start with a bit of passive riding. And as you're getting into the feel of what your horse is thinking today, how you're feeling today, you're just going to ask your horse to do one simple thing. Like really simple. Like go from walk to trot or halt to walk. Only ask once and only do it long enough for you to ask yourself those 3 questions. Is my horse soft? Is my horse responsive? Is my horse aligned? Chances are one of those things is not going to be perfect. And yes, you can be picky and perfectionist about this one thing. Or should I say these 3 things? So pick the one that's least perfect. And then ask yourself, am I soft? Am I responsive? Am I aligned? If you are, great. Play with that one thing. Play with the softness. What would help my horse relax? What would help my horse be responsive or aligned? But remember, you only get to play with one thing at a time. If you personally, as the human, are not soft, responsive, and aligned, figure out what things you need to work on and ask yourself the same questions. Depending on your riding history, there may be a lot to unpack here. But as you break it down into small pieces, it's a lot easier to do. And a lot of times, when you start to break the things down into these small pieces, you might fix one thing and it fixes many more things along with it. We like to ask for too many things at one time, and that creates a bit of a muddled mess. So here's how to play with these 3 questions. Start with curiosity. Don't assume you already know the answer. Ask like you're listening, not like you're testing. Notice the first change. So often we miss the first try because we're fixated on the finish. Notice that first change, that first little try, and reward it. Then you can try again. But you have to reward and mark that first try. Stay in the conversation. If your horse gives you an unexpected answer, don't shut down, don't get frustrated, don't get mad, get curious, ask again, maybe differently. And then afterwards, take some time to reflect on it, think about it. Did you learn something about your horse? Did you learn something about yourself? Was the problem you thought really a lack of communication or a lack of obedience? I really found it helpful in these times when I was learning, and I still do this sometimes with horses as I'm starting to get to know them. Journaling, just jotting down a few things right after your session can be super helpful. I even used a whiteboard a lot of times, so I didn't even keep it for future sessions. Like I kept it for the next session. I could look at it before I rode, and then when I was done with that session, I'd wipe it off and write the new stuff down. Because that really just helps keep your mind clear as to what you found the last time and what changes each time. Some easy things to think about are like, which question did you focus on today? Is my horse soft? Is my horse responsive? Is my horse aligned? What did your horse tell you when you asked those questions? How did it feel in your body to ask those questions? And how did you feel about the answers, if you thought you got any? What surprised you? It's always a great one because it's like, what happened that I was not expecting? When we're in this mode, it's not about fixing things. It's about starting a conversation and a different kind of ride. One where your horse has room to answer, not just obey. And it might feel awkward at first. You might feel like you're not doing enough. That is okay. It's the unlearning. It's rewiring. You are probably still doing plenty. You're probably doing more than you think you're doing because your horse is appreciating it. So if you stick with it, even if you just do a few minutes of this work during every ride, you don't have to change your whole rides every day, every time. You could just spend a few minutes, set your timer, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, whatever. You might be amazed at what your horse is willing to offer you when they feel heard. And why does all of this matter? Because at the end of the day, most of us didn't fall in love with riding to win things. You're paying a lot more to ride than you're getting out of the things you're winning. Material things, anyway. We didn't start this journey because we wanted to control something. We started because we felt something. A spark, a moment of connection, a love so big it pulled us into the world of horses and never let us go. And somewhere along the way, that feeling gets tangled up in pressure. We start chasing perfection. We start believing we need to do it right all the time. We start listening to the voices that say, make him do it instead of ask him how he feels. But riding doesn't have to be a battle. It can be a partnership. It can be a conversation. It can be full of joy. And the best part, that doesn't come from fancy gear or expensive training programs. It comes from presence, from curiosity, and from asking simple questions. And waiting for the answer. When we prioritize softness, responsiveness, and alignment, not just in our horses, but in ourselves, everything changes. The resistance eases, the joy comes back, the brilliance shows up. Not because we demanded it, but because we invited it. So keep asking, keep listening, keep showing up for the conversation. You don't need to ride perfectly. You just need to ride like someone who believes your horse has something to say, because they do. If this episode resonated with you, I've got a couple of resources to help you take it even further. You can grab the Conversation Starter Experiment Journaling page to reflect on your ride. And if you haven't taken it yet, you can take the Are You a Perfectionist Rider Quiz, which is live now on the website. And it even comes with a free mini-series of exercises to help you shift out of control mode and into connection. You can find both at equisenlightened.com. The link is going to be waiting for you in the show notes. In the meantime, happy riding. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Come Ride With Me. My goal is to demonstrate to riders that we don't have to do something every second of a ride. We don't have to do things a certain way or at a certain time. Just staying present with your horse and gathering non-judgmental information about how they are going is way more beneficial than overthinking and overworking. If you'd like to learn more about what I do at Equus Enlightened, you can find me at equisenlightened.net or on patreon.com/equisenlightened. You can also find me on social media as Equus Enlightened. I will put all the links in the show notes. And until next time, happy riding. Oh, before you go, please remember to rate, review, and share this pod so others can find it. I would love constructive criticism, but like my mom used to say, if you don't have anything really nice to say, there's no need to say it. Just ride on, my friends. Have a great week.